So today's video is story time. I want to tell you about the curious case of, well, my case of high seas.
A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando.
Hey there, my flesh and blood friends. Thanks for tuning in for today for a bit of a story time. I want to regale you with the story of this right here. This is my high seas case. You can see it's still unopened and all of that. And I wanted to use that story, I guess, as kind of a springboard for kind of a different conversation about how what the global community is seeing versus what your locals versus what you personally are seeing if you log online or something can all be very, very, very different. And I think it's very interesting. So I also want to preface this with, this is not a finance video. This is not a market video. This is not like the state of the game video. This is just telling a story and something I found to be very interesting. So the story's not super long, don't worry. Our LGS, the LGS I go to, a lot of times I say my LGS and folks think I own an LGS. I do not own an LGS. The LGS that I go to, Gongai Games, they've been sold out of high seas since opening weekend. I believe it was like the Saturday of opening weekend. They were sold out basically concurrent. In most cases, I think they were sold out actually on pre-release. But certainly they had no product by the armory that we had on release weekend. They were gone. It was gone. There was like some booster packs in the back from pre-release left over. That was it. Okay. So I had this case. The vast majority of folks in our area were, if they were able to get any at all, were limited to a box or maybe maybe two boxes, something like that. And I had a whole case. Now I realized and I knew that high seas was going to be real hard to find. I also had really no interest in Necro. And I said, you know what? I'm going to sit this set out. I don't really want to have to be chasing high price singles to build out whomever. That ended up not being entirely true because, the gold packs kind of like really changed things in terms of like getting Majestics, but that's a different topic, right? But I said, I'm going to sit this one out. So I said, okay, this case, I'm going to sell it to a local, and I offered 500. So remember, MSRP for this set was 480. And for opening weekend, a couple weeks after, it was selling for anywhere between, I'll put the graph up, anywhere between like 520, 550, something like that, right? So I was like, I don't want to deal with global market, deal with shipping, some rando. I don't want to deal with it. For a local, someone whom I know, I'll sell for 500. Just a little bit over SMRP, which is MSRP, and went from there. So that was the offer. And as you can see, I still have it. Now, this wasn't something where somebody contacted me and counteroffered me. They're like, can you go 20 low or whatever? Never. It was just crickets, right? I never heard, nobody was interested in the case at all. And that's what I find to be the curious case of the case is, by and large, this set seems to, again, this is my perception, my conclusion, and my opinion, but by and large, the product constraint of this set, unless you're someone who like went full in, the vast majority of people, again, that I've observed and I've interacted with at a personal level have basically said, I'm good. I'm going to sit this one out. It wasn't worth chasing. It wasn't worth trying to get something and then having to find, and again, this is my perception, but folks just weren't interested in having to really, really, really chase to find stuff. Now, certainly there's the necromancer folks out there. They want to be into gravy bones. Heck yeah, they're all about it. They're grabbing their singles, they're grabbing their tricked out stuff. But by and large, it wasn't about necessarily the money or winning the case or whatever. Folks just like, you know what? This is hard enough to find. I'm good. And I find that to be very interesting compared to, if you log online, folks are like, there's no one around, I can't get it. And that is a true statement, right, by and large. But if you really think about it, right, even at its peak on release weekend, selling for 20, 70 more than MSRP, that's like that's not good, to be clear, on opening weekend. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but by and large, that's not crazy ridiculous. I mean, and to be clear, I know that most people don't buy at MSRP, like 10% discount, whatever, they're buying it online. I get it, right? But I just find it interesting that for me and for what I've observed, folks either seem like completely out of this or they're like, I don't really want to chase stuff, I'm going to get singles. Now, in the weeks since release, it's been, a month and change at this point, the prices have come down. As of the day I'm shooting this, prices are basically MSRP plus a couple bucks, give or take, right? And I've mentioned to folks I'd be okay, parting with the case, just kind of unloading it at MSRP and just kind of walking away and being done with it. And I'm still having issues. I mean, no one is interested even at that. And that is a flag of sort, not a red flag or anything like that, but that is something that is worth observing and saying, well, if folks don't even want it at MSRP, yet folks can't find it, yet there seems to be a lack of the whole thing is, let's just say it's very interesting from a kind of perception standpoint, right? So that's what I found very interesting about this is I still have it. I've gotten very little interest in, some folks have pinged me like, oh, would you sell a box or so? And I was like, no, that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? I'll keep it. And if it goes below, I'll just open it and enjoy it, right? Not a big deal. But I find that very interesting. So I'd be curious to hear, what are you hearing and seeing in your local community? And then I'd like to compare what your answers are and kind of my perceptions with, again, if you log online and you look, it seems to be like the most popular thing since sliced bread. Folks can't get enough of it. They want to grab it everywhere. But in my community, by and large, it's not that they're not excited about the set. I think a lot of people are. Folks have been trying Necro. But it does seem overall that the impact of the set not being available really kind of hurt the set's landing for a lot of people within the community. And that's not like, again, a lot of people take sets off from time to time. It seems like this was a set that a lot of people chose to take off kind of at the same time. And it's very clear that I don't know that it's very clear, but I highly suspect that there's a small number of people that are driving a large number of sales around this set, trying to chase that small stuff. And that's a very interesting perspective when, again, you log on to Twitters or whatever the kids are using these days, and you see it's nothing but no product and wanting to get more and high prices and stuff like that, which is all true, but it's all true from a certain point of view within a vacuum. And I think that's very interesting to keep in mind and wrap our heads around. So anyway, that's my piece. I know it's a super short video today, but I'd love to hear what your experience are, what your thoughts are. So be it. That's it for me today. And go Commando.